This week, we're starting to see that new push into enabling institutional involvement. Shark Bites is an absolute banger this week. Hedera once again is leading in developer activity, and we have a great update from Earthlings for you. Welcome back. I'm Brandon, the HBAR Bull, once again joined by Zepsi. We both do some contract work for the HBAR Foundation, but we don't do these weekly updates in any official capacity. We're just coming to you personally to give you the latest in the Hedera ecosystem. Finally, Zeb, welcome back.
It's been a very long time. I've been in sort of a dreamlike state, having not been part of the show, and I'm very glad to be back. But how's it going, Brandon?
It's going very well. But of course, none of this is financial advice. Use it for entertainment or educational purposes only. So the first thing that we're going to dive into is a new initiative to get people more engaged from the community, and it's called ThriveCoin. Now, there's been a bumpy launch here in the beginning because of some Wallet Connect issues, so I would just wait until we get all that stuff hammered out before actually participating. But just to give you an idea of how this works, you can go ahead and go through their site, and eventually you'll be able to connect your wallet here, and you can create content such as creating blogs, X threads, videos, or hosting X spaces. You could purchase NFTs or sell NFTs on Centex. You can participate in some DeFi by leveraging Saucer Swap or Hashport. And this is all just in the first season. They're going to be doing new initiatives as time goes on. But Zeb, I'm going to kick it over to you here. What are your thoughts on this initiative?
I think, as we're all very much aware, that there's been a lot of calls towards the HBAR Foundation specifically, and not really the other organizations, but at THF specifically, that there needs to be more retail developments and support for the Hedera retail community. And I think that ThriveCoin is a great development in this direction, a good step for enabling people who contribute value all across the ecosystem, right? Not just builders, not just grantees. This is everyone that commits value, whether that's content creators, people on social media, key opinion leaders, degens, whatever it is. It seems there's a piece of the pie for everyone here to be contributed for being part of that community. And I really, really love to see that. As we all know, the community is one of the biggest marketing arms that a network possesses. To have that many people that can mobilize to push a message. We saw it with Hello Metamask, with, Brandon Davenport. We saw it with Hello Coinbase. When you enable and energize a community like that online, you can really, really move mountains, it seems. And so for me, seeing this new, ThriveCoin protocol on Hedera, seeing that there'll be, rewarding content creators, for blogs or YouTube videos, social media content, this kind of thing. I'm really excited to see that community further engaged, further energized, to spread that message of Hedera. I'd really like to see some new KOLs emerge, some new content creators emerge, get them that, first footing with those rewards so that they set up their own channels, set up their own profiles and, really, really sort of reap the benefits of growing your own social media profile. And so, for me, really exciting initiative. Great to see retail engaged, great to see the community engaged, and looking for that sort of marketing push together would be fantastic to see.
Well covered there, Zep. Now, the next thing we're going to get into is another big announcement that was made coming out of the HBAR Foundation, and it has to do with copper. Now, I could certainly cover this myself, but I decided to get a hold of Gregg, and he is with the HBAR Foundation, and he's heading up like financial market integrations and things like that. So he's going to run through all kinds of things, including why he joined the HBAR Foundation, but he also covers copper really well. So let's listen to what he has to say. Gregg, welcome. Thanks for giving us some time today.
Of course. Thank you.
All right. So, Gregg, to kick this off, we're going to jump right into it. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you were brought into the HBAR Foundation?
Absolutely. Well, my background is originally from Wall Street as an asset-backed securities investment banker and trader, then similar roles at several large multi-billion-dollar hedge funds before founding and then scaling my first crypto entrepreneurial venture, a company that pioneered the crypto credit markets. I think actually I hold the first tweet of that phrase, crypto credit. And I then subsequently went on to start a company that went to list a NASDAQ listed fund. And I ran several businesses at Binance on the US side. So since I began my career in crypto professionally in 2016, I've always been bridging crypto and TradFi. And that's why I was brought onto the Hedera ecosystem to do just that.
Okay, I got you. So you're focusing on that institutional space. We just had an announcement this past week with Copper. Now, can you explain that Copper partnership and why it's important for the HBAR Foundation strategy?
Absolutely. So Copper offers foundational institutional infrastructure, and this enables access to the Hedera ecosystem. It's a new doorway, and Copper services thousands of clients. For example, Copper developed a custody solution in collaboration with State Street. So the State Street Corporation is one of the world's leading providers of financial services. They have over 42 trillion in assets under custody. Then there are TradFi institutions like the world-renowned, multi-billion-dollar hedge fund, Brevan Howard. And Copper is connected to over 40 crypto exchanges and crypto market makers like Cumberland, DRW, Flow Traders, GSR. So although Copper's product is geared towards businesses, there's often consumers further downstream. And when I think about what's the core of their business, they've got several different products, of course, but custody being the first, right? You need to know where you're going to hold an asset as an institution to be able to make that purchase. And so what's really exciting about the Copper infrastructure is that they support HBAR. They support HTS tokens like USDC native on Hedera, which operates at a throughput and a lower cost than other versions of USDC. And then you have the EVM tokens, like the tokenized money market funds that we've seen from the UK's largest asset manager, Aberdeen, and America's largest asset manager, BlackRock, which both have been tokenized on Hedera. One of Copper's products is prime services, such as staking. So clients are now very easily in a seamless manner able to stake HBAR to validators of their choosing via both their app and APIs. And your users will, or listeners will recall that validation within Hedera is performed by institutions. So clients of Copper can now stake to nodes run by Dell or Google or IBM or the Japanese investment bank Nomura or the global payments company WorldPay. And so it's expanding the suite of service and the ease of access. Copper also offers a collateral management tool, and this is the posting of assets as collateral for off-exchange trading. And this is key market infrastructure that exists in the TradFi space that's only being developed within the crypto infrastructure. And so this is connecting Kraken and Bybit and OKX and BitGo and Deribit and Gate.io and Bitfinex and many, many others, and seamlessly making the interaction across all of these. And so the Copper partnership really is a game changer. It's a game changer because it's opening doors to this large, established institutional network.
Understood. So before we move on to the next question, I want to kind of explain something for our audience. What is the difference? We talk about enterprises a lot within the Hedera space. What's the difference between an institution and an enterprise?
It's a great question. I think it often depends on the use case or the sector that this corporation may be working in. And what I'm seeing from my seat is that there's just a tremendous amount of interest in different sectors. And the interest really depends on the type of institution. Crypto native firms, they're typically focused on DeFi yield and HBAR trading or other trading strategies, while a TradFi investment firm may see opportunities in tokenized securities. And that's very different, but still utilizing Hedera relative to, let's say, a corporation or enterprise that is utilizing the Hedera ledger for process improvements, such as improving supply chain tracking. This would also include carbon footprints, of course. And enterprise or institutional use cases, these make up the vast majority, the largest percentage of the over 63 billion transactions that have been recorded on Hedera. And that's, of course, more than any other network. It's about 20x that of Ethereum in terms of transaction count. And what it's showing is Hedera's proven ability to scale, right? High throughput, high transactions, 100% uptime over the last year with, tremendous speed. These are the attributes of Hedera that resonate with institutions. They resonate with enterprises, and they should resonate with retail users as well.
So you mentioned a few of the potential use cases. We've talked about supply chain. We've talked about, TradFi. Where are you seeing the most interest for Hedera? Is it those real world asset tokenization use cases? Is it supply chain? Is it, we can go down the line of all the different things that we're seeing built on Hedera. Are they interested in the HBAR itself and investing in the ecosystem? Where are you seeing most of that interest come from?
It's a question of layers. There are various layers of recording information. And so what I like, and using maybe ESG, the carbon as an example, we are seeing enterprises using Hedera to record cradle to grave carbon emissions. And this is the underlying collateral for products. Now, above that, you can lay a financial instrument. That may be a forward, that may be a bond. But it's utilizing the information that's recorded on Hedera, and that can then be tokenized into a security. So there's various layers, and you see this across ecosystems as well, from money market funds that are used as reserves for stablecoins. So there's a variety of different attributes, but today that base layer is where as I mentioned, the vast majority of transactions are occurring. It's recording the underlying collateral. And what I'm excited about is those foundational building blocks is where you start to build the next layer or layers of innovation.
So, Gregg, before we let you go, is there anything else you'd like to pass on to the Hedera community?
I think now is an exciting time. Now is the time of action. Even though we go throughout bull and bear markets, but builders continue to build. And I'm seeing that in terms of the statistics related to the number of developers that are interacting with Hedera. That's exciting to me. That paints a positive picture in the future as more functionality, more products, more building blocks come into play.
Well, Gregg, again, we appreciate you coming on today and giving us some insights into exactly what you're working on. And we hope we can have you back real soon.
Great. Thank you.
So I definitely have to get Gregg back more often, but you had some thoughts around copper as well. So what do you have for us?
Yeah, I mean, as we all know, Hedera is an institutional grade distributed ledger, network. And as Gregg has mentioned previously, the combination of Hedera's proven scale, through supply chain applications like Atma.io, our ABFT security, and the stability of the governing council enables Hedera to get in and get a seat at the table with the large-scale institutions as a public network in ways that other public networks simply can't. But in order for those institutional-grade properties on Hedera to be fully leveraged, there needs to be the institutional-grade framework built around that, such as the custodians, like Copper is, supplying here, in order for them to be able to interact with the network from their own comfort zone. And for me, this is very exciting for all the reasons Gregg mentioned. And I know that having Gregg on the team, having Sabrina on the team, identifying these friction points, making investments to fill them, and bringing in new clients via them, to leverage the network for its purpose is really, really exciting for me. And they're moving really quickly. They're identifying these points, making the investments, and this definitely isn't the last time you're going to be hearing from Gregg on the institutional front. So exciting times for the foundation, I think, and exciting times for the Hedera ecosystem as a result of that.
And I'm just going to go a little bit deeper into, we talk about the enterprises, we talk about institutions. I think in this context, institutions are financial institutions. Of course, institutions can be all kinds of things from the FBI on, but when we're talking about this, we're specifically talking about financial institutions, things like hedge funds, things like banks, money managers, and the like. Another example of the focus on institutions is Hedera's fireside chat in the Ukraine. Hedera Governing Council member Aberdeen is going to be in attendance there. And if you'd like to participate, go ahead and register interest now. All right, Zeb, we're going to shift gears here just a little bit into some of that developer activity. And I want to get some of your thoughts on that because you've been posting on some of that lately. But we also got some insights from Andrew Forson on one of their initiatives in Africa. So I want to listen to his thoughts real quick.
I think, in addition to providing these, ready to use tools and these support with managing projects, there's also another aspect of Hedera that I really appreciate is how you're helping to create like a really good and diverse community of developers and within the Hedera ecosystem as well. And one way you've done this is you recently partnered with, and sorry if I say this wrong, Adanian Labs, DLT Africa's a regional development program to offer Hedera training courses and certification to over 3,000 developers in Africa, which is incredible. So tell me more about this initiative.
Yeah, this initiative is quite near and dear to my heart, and you pronounced it perfectly. The consortium, if you will, is the Hashgraph Association, Adanian Labs, and the African Blockchain Center. And it's even more than 3,000 developers. It actually extends across 5 countries. Adanian Labs is based in Kenya, and it extends from Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, Malawi, and Rwanda. And in each one of those countries, we're partnering with 3 universities, and we are providing training on Hedera. Basically, we're developing Hedera certified engineers in these countries. And then these Hedera certified engineers will go on and participate in hackathons, building applications on Hedera. But then the successful projects, the hackathon winners, will actually inject some seed capital into their projects to try and incubate winning companies. Now, some people might say, well, why would we choose Africa as a geographic or regional location in which to focus? The funny thing about DLT and the blockchain space is in countries where everything is working perfectly, there's not really an incentive to have a massive change in approach in technology. But what happens is in a place where capturing payments or transacting money, in a place where land registry services are not as well defined or as mature as they would be in a Toronto or a Zurich, all of a sudden you get these young minds, and the continent of Africa currently has the youngest age demographic in the world. You have these young minds who are trying to think of ways to solve problems. And the DLT space solves a lot of those problems because of that whole statement that we started out with about the single source of truth. So our objective is to create this army of developers that will have the knowledge of Hedera and the DLT space, provide them with that seed capital needed to create the technologies that might revolutionize the world once again.
And of course, this was brought to our attention by our local sleuth, Danny. He always posts this stuff, lets us know where the really meaty stuff is on these fireside chats and these conversations that we see online. But Zeb, I know you've been posting a fair amount on some of the developer activity we're seeing on the Hedera network. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Africa is an emerging economy. A lot of its infrastructure, both digitally and physically, is far less entrenched than in the Western Hemisphere. And because of that, they can move to adopt, emerging technologies like Web3 a lot quicker than other countries that we're seeing in the West. And, this is why you have teams like Cardano, networks like Cardano, that have entire investment vehicles, entire investment arms completely devoted to this region. Empower is a branch of Emergo, which is their VC arm, and they've been hyper-focused on this region for a long time. And what I love about this specifically is that we're now seeing THA doing the same thing. And this isn't the first time we've seen it, right? They first came onto the scene, maybe 2 years ago, talking about a big investment with Orange, the mobile network in Morocco. And it seems that strategy that they laid out when they first came to market is really starting to come to fruition. And it seems that this is particularly in the region of fintech. And, this digital innovation is, of course, being driven by ambitious entrepreneurs and developers. And so seeing the Hashgraph Association, turning 3,000 African developers into what they're calling Hedera engineers is really, really cool to see. And the fact that they're going to be offering, the resources for them to scale their solutions on Hedera, I think is really exciting, especially when you put that against, the growth we've been seeing on sentiment recently, i.e. in developer activity monitoring. And I think we're really at the start of that curve for Hedera developers across the world. And actually, one last thing, you mentioned there, Andrew Forson. I met him in Paris at Paris Blockchain Week Summit. And he actually came over from Empower. He was one of the senior figures at that Cardano Africa impact investing firm. And he actually came over to Hedera, and I spoke to him, and he was like, Hedera is the one that can scale these applications. Hedera is the one that can really make that vision happen in Africa. And that's one of the large reasons he moved over. So great to see Andrew Force in there, making these big inroads, taking his expertise from his career before and also at Cardano and making that happen on Hedera.
Now, I have a couple points here. We see the developer activity on Santiment, and there's been some people saying, well, of course, because Hashgraph is putting so much effort into it, but it's still developer activity. It shows the work that's going into this. And of course, it's not all Hashgraph that's putting that in. And that's, of course, formerly Swirlds Labs. Some of the other things specifically around Africa, of course, we have Flutterwave, which is absolutely massive. That's going to take time to actually come to fruition. But when it does, it could have a really big impact. And then we have smaller companies like QuickPick that could do a lot of really good things in Africa. And like you said, they can kind of leapfrog in a lot of cases. We saw that with mobile communication, where they completely skipped having landlines and they went straight to having cell phones. We could see something similar here, where they completely skip having, a full banking system and go right into Web3. And unlike what Andrew said, and I understand why he said it, but he said, it's because of the trust layer of the internet. I think it's because it gives these people access to general capitalism that they never had access to before. And I think this is what could lift literally billions of people out of poverty in some of these places. So that's really my hope for Web3 and Hedera. The reason why I came to Hedera, one of the big reasons I came to Hedera, was because it has the potential to really scale as is necessary to really move us to the next level in general capitalism around the world and markets. So I'm excited about what I'm seeing there, and I'm sure everybody else is too. But until we actually start to see the real traction, I understand that it is difficult to foresee what's going to be coming for the Hedera network in places like Africa. All right, so like I said, we have a real banger this week when it comes to shark bites. So let's check that one out. Hey, Rob, how's life down under?
Hey, Brandon. Yes, it's great. Always good down in Australia. A bit cold at the moment, but we're enjoying our Olympians, or have been enjoying our Olympians, all except one of them, of course.
We won't even talk about it. We know what you're talking about, but yeah, Australia did a really good job in the Olympics. I was watching them the past 2 weeks. It was
awesome to see. Yeah.
And unlike you, the weather where I am is perfect. It's 80 degrees, low humidity. It's perfect. But, we'll be flip-flopping here before long.
That's fantastic. And we're hosting the Olympics in 8 years' time in Brisbane. So we have that sort of cycle coming around again. And it's creating...
We're the same. We're the next one in 28.
That's right. Yeah. But we've got lots of kind of ideas around incorporating Hedera-based use cases into the next Olympics. So that would be... we're just starting the ideation now with various parties. But how cool would that be to have an Olympics built on Hedera?
That would be very cool.
All right, you heard it here first.
Already got some alpha coming out. All right, so we're going to dive right into these questions. We got several of them. The first one comes from HBAR $10, who says, "Hey Rob, what HIPs and other Hedera roadmap items are you most looking forward to?"
So I'm going to have to refer to a list here, so apologies. I think we should have a kind of an all-time HIP top 10, because the HIP process is actually kind of an unappreciated superpower of Hedera. We've got this open source stack, but we've also got this process for change. And that change process is governed through the tech committee for the governing council. So, all the HIPs that are raised by the community or internally or by Hashgraph itself all go through this process. So, there are way, way too many to mention, but I've done a little bit of crowdsourcing on people's favorite HIPs, and I kind of concur with a lot of these. So let's go through them. I'm not going to do the top 10 rundown, but the first one I really like is HIP 18. It's one of the original ones. It's the one that established custom Hedera token service fees. This is what kind of created the ability to have royalties on HTS tokens, both fungible and non-fungible. And it's actually one of the key differentiators of our network. We can have native tokens, and then we can, when we design those tokens, incorporate royalties so that, for as long as those tokens are in circulation, the presumably the originator or the minter of that token kind of gets a royalty. It was really important. Like I said, it was an important differentiator. And not only can you have percentages as royalties, you can basically use Hedera in your product and charge the transactions in your token. So you can use the token as the basis for economies within communities. All of these great things that Web3 aspires to, we implemented in that one small change, which was probably not a small engineering change, but it has really differentiated the network. So I think that's an excellent one. Obviously, really, really good for NFTs. The next one is kind of my favorite, I think, because it's HIP 412, where NFT token metadata was standardized. So the JSON format for the metadata for our NFTs. For those of us who were around before then, it was a bit of a mess. There was no standards. Wallets didn't know how to render NFTs. It was very difficult to transfer tokens. And we had a wild west in the early days around the NFT space. So not only did that change all that, it gave us the ability to have this standard set of metadata around NFTs. So the data associated with it and the files associated with them and the graphics, etc. But also it was a really good, and in times like now, it's actually great to kind of hark back to these. It was a great example of the community coming together. This wasn't driven out of Hedera itself or out of the core engineering team. This was a need from retail that drove change. It kind of created this group of active participants in the community that drove it, and we some of the OG names are on the list on the HIP. People like Cooper Kuntz and Paul Madsen and Patches and Brandon D. There's some great people in there, all of whom kind of drove that change. So I think it's always good to know that. Retail and community can actually affect change, and this is a great example of that. And I think it's actually echoed now in what's happening with Wallet Connect, and how the community is doing all the heavy lifting really on driving Wallet Connect forward. A few others, I'm not going to go into detail on all of these, but HIP 904, frictionless airdrops. We've got a token association capability within Hedera, which has been built in for a very good reason, because airdrops are a blight on many of the other layer one networks. But having frictionless, the ability to actually do that in a frictionless way is really important. So that's 904. Lockable fractional amounts of fungible tokens. So HIP 796 is a really interesting one from the perspective of being able to lock at a fractional level on fungible tokens. So we're exploring that actually at AP Plus as a really cool aspect of fungible tokens. And then a couple of really interesting ones that are coming up. In fact, they've been through TechCom in the last week or two. So HIP 980, which is enhanced mirror node entity REST APIs with timestamp query parameter. Sounds a bit dry, easy for me to say, but I'm assured by some of my trusted engineering friends that this actually is a game changer in terms of being able to timestamp at points in the past and not. The load on querying mirror nodes should be reduced, because we can not only query the current state of the account as it is now, but we can then query the state of accounts at points in time, time-stamped points in time, which brings about some very interesting ways of exploring the Hedera network state over time. And finally, and I'm not going to go into any more than this one, but HIP 991, another one we're exploring and looking at, which is permissionless revenue generating topic IDs for topic operators. So this kind of creates, as we know, topics are kind of one of the core aspects of Hedera architecture. And when one submits transactions, one selects a topic and a topic ID, which can be secured or open. This HIP allows, as far as I understand, for almost an economy around the provision of topics to form. And so these topic operators can charge fees in HBAR or a token of their own choice for doing so. So that could be access to topics that is maybe secured data or as conduits for AppNet architectures, things like that, which is very interesting way of exploring that HIP. So I'll stop there on that question because we could go on forever. We're on HIP 991, so we don't have all day. But I'd actually like to hear from the community of what their favorite HIPs are. Maybe we could run an all-time top 10 list. Maybe that's an example for the mouth, and we could have an HBAR vote or something on our favorite HIPs.
There you go.
That'd be quite cool.
That would work.
I'll point that at the mouth team as an idea.
There we go. All right. So we do have a question on community nodes, but we're going to push that off a little bit. We're going to answer that in the future so we can knock them all out at one time.
Yep.
Hashgraph Hustler has one. He says, hey, Rob, the sentiment has never been worse since the start of Hashgraph. Not only is the price of HBAR really bad, but also sentiment among retail and developers. What do you think could turn this around? A new big governing council member, an uptick in TPS, a new use case, or...
Well, yes, we have to face into the situation that there are pockets of poor sentiment that are growing within the community. That's not to say that there aren't pockets of great sentiment, and I think we have some amazing things to celebrate all the time. New use cases.
I think that goes for us individually, right? We might be really excited about one thing, but frustrated about other parts of it. I've been through ups and downs in the Hedera ecosystem over and over again. It is pretty bad right now in certain parts, but I'll let you continue on. But I have some of that tug of war going on inside myself.
And when you enter an ecosystem such as this, which has these peaks and troughs, you don't maybe have the perspective or the ability to take a step back and see, the wider landscape, then it's very easy to get drawn into those negative sentiments. But I actually think that there are, the questioner gave some examples of what might turn this around. I don't think there's any one thing that will do that. I mean, we've had some great governing council members. We've had some great TPS. I mean, TPS is amazing at the moment. We talk about new use cases all the time. I think there's from a sentiment perspective, there's a kind of a macro answer, which is, the whole of Web3 is actually quite down at the moment and suppressed, and therefore that there's nothing better than seeing green candles on charts to actually change sentiment on a dime, right? It really does change very quickly, and everyone then is pumped and sentiments change. But in this kind of steady state, prior to what we hope to be, a significant move in the markets in the right direction, we should think about the great use cases, the distance we've come from the last cycle, the fact that we have so many great components within our ecosystem that we didn't have before, and things that far more retail focused, and retail drives all this, right? And we keep saying this, and as a governing council member, as an enterprise guy, I do recognize retail drives all this, and retail are here for fun and frolics and price, right? And so we need to understand that all of the big announcements, are necessary structurally for Hedera to be this 100-year network that will see through the test of time and get this long-term enterprise engagement. But sentiment is a very personal thing, and people have basic needs, and that's the dopamine and the feel-good factor, and the fact that they're part of a strong and healthy and supportive community. And I think we can do things to address those things as well.
Yeah, and I think one of the first things people should go do is go use some of the applications that you haven't used, whether it's HLiquidity, or anything else in the DeFi space. We have the games that are coming out, and now we have some of the smaller games that are really starting to hit the network in mass, and those games are only going to get bigger and more complex as these teams have longer to work on them. So get out there, use some of the stuff we cover in this show, and I think you'll probably get turned around pretty quick.
Yeah, the user experience on Hedera is always excellent. And it's sometimes you need to come from other communities to realize actually how much better it actually is in Hedera. So like I said, all the components there, all the ingredients of the the most amazing layer one network with the most amazing layer one community are all there. We just need to take a breath sometimes and like I say, use the wares, use the apps, enjoy being within this community, which is I think the best in Web3.
Well said. Well said. All right. So we have HBAR Hub here. He's going to do a little bit of fishing. He says, here's an effort at squeezing out alpha without breaking NDAs. How many undisclosed use cases do you know about that could be bigger than Atma.io in both fees and TPS? And how much bigger are they? Love watching you guys every week.
Okay. So no alpha. But, one only has to look at some of the, read between the lines, see some of the announcements that have been made. We know that there's a lead time to hitting the mainnet. And we know that some of these fall away, right? Some of these big use cases are, dreams that don't get fulfilled for whatever reason. And, but there are many, many, many that will. So, using Atma.io as the benchmark, and by the way, Atma is only just getting started, so it's its own baseline, if you like.
Well, you've mentioned in the past that, they've started out just using HCS, but they are planning on using the token service as well.
Yeah,
right?
and fees is what we're more interested in. Everyone likes the TPS kind of metrics because it's best in class, and we can kind of rally around it. But fees are really important for the sustainability of the network and the growth, and driving the nodes, and ultimately the price as well. So I think use of the HTS tokens, the use cases that use the HTS token at scale and create accounts at scale, are the use cases that will kind of that underpin this question. If we had 100 Atma.ios just pumping the HCS APIs, then we're not actually optimally fulfilling the promise of Hedera. We need use cases that scale maybe not as high as Atma, but are using HTS 10 times more. There are lots of levers here. That said, there are some great use cases coming along, which I envisage being far greater than Atma as it currently stands. I'm not saying Atma.io won't go 5-10 times more than it already is, and I suspect over time it will. I haven't spoken about our sustainability use cases for some time, and that's my fault, because there's so many other things to be talking about, and we don't get very many questions on the sustainability side. But I honestly think that we're at the point of the regenerative finance use cases, the Guardian ecosystem, driving huge amounts of volume on Hedera. All of the ecosystem is kind of pretty much delivered now. So, the Guardian token service, the explorers, the markets, the financing integrations, the open source Guardian policy library is the largest on the planet, and we've got these huge project developers like Olcott now actively using it. So I think that we will see a lot of growth in that area. And actually, we have no competition really anywhere in Web3 in this space. So that will be definitely one that we would expect to completely blow any other use case out of the water in total.
I actually just brought this up last week, Rob, and there was a few things that you had said in the past that really perked my ears up. Number one, do you remember what I said when I asked how much of the market share of that market do you think we could take? What'd you say?
I said, why not all of it?
Why not all of it?
Yeah.
And the other thing is...
And it's trillions, right? We're talking about trillions of dollars of new assets which could potentially come to this network.
And I've said this over and over again, the investment was made in building out the infrastructure, and it's actually going to be the users that are paying the fees. And as you mentioned again in the past, that each one of those carbon credits, it may take a few cents, it might even take tens of cents before it gets retired if it goes through, and there's accounts that are associated with it, smart contract calls, there's token transfers associated with it, and so forth. It could be a serious revenue driver.
Absolutely. There's a life cycle for each one of these Guardian tokens from minting or even upstream from there, where all of the data associated with the provenance of that credit or whatever the token is incorporated into it. So it utilizes many parts of what Hedera differentiates itself with. And then there are fees all the way along its life cycle, all the way through to retirement. So, and even after retirement, there's potential for, the explorer to show that data. So there's kind of an ongoing kind of residual fee associated with it. So that, I think, is really going to turn everyone's heads. Then we've got other use cases, retail type use cases, or enterprise retail rather than degen retail, but around micropayments. We both of us have been we're attracted to Hedera because of its micropayments capability, and Hedera stablecoins are by default micropayments in my view, and this is a view that I've had for a long time. So not only can our fungible tokens affect tiny units of value being transferred, but then you can associate those with reward points or digital vouchers or coupons, or you can stream value, not just fiat value, but other types of value in return for streamed services. So these are hugely scalable, and we're right at the start of that journey as well. But I see that happening in that Olympics timeframe I was talking about earlier. The 8 years. I think over that period of time, we actually will see a lot more of this. And to support that, we will probably need shards. We'll probably need community nodes, maybe even special private networks to support the sorts of scale we're looking at for that. And then the third category is IoT. These are all overlapping. The Venn diagram of these use cases is starting to merge and overlap. So IoT, sensor-driven data collection and provenance and integrity that could support DePIN, so the likes of Neuron and Seal that we've talked about, but also could support the collection of the data for the regenerative finance and the Guardian ecosystem. All of these feed into new consumer experiences, which might look like payments, but are actually value transfer in new and exciting ways. So as all of these things come together, you get that they're not building in silos, they're building together, and then you get the network effects. And it's only when you get network effects you go to new levels of scale. And the architectures that we have support our ability to do that, because we have SBNs in the near future, because we have sharding in the near future. And we have this super scalable core engineering stack. So we can envisage all of these magnitudes of increase, because we're not constrained by what blockchains have on other networks. Well, I could go on for days on this, and there's gaming, there's supply chain, there's all sorts of other use cases that will. When we look back, and we'll look back at these halcyon days of Atma doing 2,000 transactions a second, and we'll think, wow, how did we never imagine that we're doing so many more, 2 million transactions a second across multiple shards, across multiple layers? That's where I think the future will be, and potentially in that 8-year time frame as well.
All right. Well, we have a very high volume use case that had the potential of coming onto Hedera, but we've been getting a lot of questions around it. It comes from HBAR DeFi, who says, "Hey, Rob and the HBAR Bull, do you know if the Coupon Bureau is still building on Hedera? They changed their website and deleted all the information mentioning Hedera." Now, Rob, you mentioned a few months ago that their CEO had changed out, and that may be leading to some of this, but do you have any insight?
Yeah, I don't. The question does come up quite regularly, so I thought I'd tackle it quickly here. There was executive change at the top. Coupon Bureau has been one of those North Stars for Hedera for many years. It was driven actually by Azim Malik out of the original Hedera organization. His business development with the Coupon Bureau kind of set the scene for much of those kind of early days aspiration towards tokenized coupons, primarily in the US, but elsewhere in the world as well, where they're almost a form of currency in some countries. They've made giant strides in the right direction, but there was an executive change at the top of the Coupon Bureau, and the former founders went in different directions. So I think but Azim Malik is still kind of part of that group. He's now running an organization called Spective Labs. They're very focused on digital identity and retail kind of use cases such as coupons. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if this didn't resurface, but under a new CEO with a new leadership, I think they've tried to focus as a startup on revenue generation, and maybe they found a couple of steps in their Web 2 space that they need to take before going kind of all in on Hedera and Web 3. But I don't know anything more than that. I've got no unique insight into this, but just reading the tea leaves, I think that's probably where Coupon Bureau are. I actually think it's one of the best use cases we've ever had. I'd be very, very surprised if it didn't ultimately get built on Hedera. But as with all things in business, you're driven by shareholders and the needs of your staff and finding product market fit. And they were doing a lot of heavy lifting on the standard side first. So I think there's no magic wand to this. You have to do the grind. But there are great examples in similar and adjacent industries such as SKUX. With Mondelez, they've actually found that
I was going to bring that up,
fit, and they're going gangbusters. So I think we should probably stop thinking about Coupon Bureau as being the be-all and end-all and start looking at some of the other businesses that are actually succeeding in similar areas like SKUX, and then hope Coupon Bureau picks up. Or potentially a competitor comes in and leapfrogs them. There's no reason to think that they have the only use case in that area that could succeed on Hedera. So we may have members of our audience right now who are building a coupon-based platform and aspire to be the market leader in that use case.
Well, time will tell. All right,
Indeed.
So the next one comes from Dal4292, who says, curious to get your and Rob's take on the phishing/dusting transactions that are plaguing everyone's wallets. Are these BS transactions being counted in TPS and overall transaction count? So essentially, just to explain what these transactions are, there's somebody out there who will send very small amounts of HBAR to everyone's wallets. And that does a few different things. It can trigger your staking rewards. So you might think that you're getting rewards from a certain entity, and that might make you more willing to listen to what they have in the memo. And that what can be in that memo could be a phishing site. So you go to a phishing site, and then some people have put in their seed phrase, and then all of a sudden your wallet is empty. Now, I think we have communicated this a fair amount in the past. Certainly good to bring it up again, to never put your seed phrase in unless you absolutely trust what it is. It's a trusted wallet or something like that, and you're initiating it. But either way, be very careful when you're doing that. And there's plenty of people out there who will answer your questions. As the old saying goes, measure twice, cut once. Don't do those things on a whim. But as far as the transactions, at least from my perspective, if they're paying fees, they are real transactions. I don't consider them BS transactions. Are they frustrating? Do we not want them around? Absolutely. But if they're paying real fees, they are real transactions in my book. But what are your thoughts, Rob?
No, just that. Nothing to add. It's annoying, but it's no more annoying than fly buzzing around your head or mozzies trying to get into your ears in the middle of the night. I mean, I just try and ignore it. Do be aware. I mean, you should never click on links that you don't know where they're going anyway. And phishing and scams are rife in this space. So yes, be very, very careful. But otherwise, I just see it as someone sending me some money. And thank you very much.
Well, this is what an example. I had something like this happen. It wasn't one of these phishing schemes, but the the Hashpack wallet actually disappeared from my browser. So I would have to recover my wallet. And I got all the way to the point. I went to the correct site. I downloaded again, and I went and started to put my seed phrase in. And I just called a timeout of myself. And I said, you know what? Let me go ask some people about this. I actually talked to May from Hashpack. I talked to some other people in the community, and they said, yeah, it's all right. Sometimes when there's updates, it will come off your browser and you have to reload it. But then I went back and I double checked the site, made sure everything was right. So like I said before, measure twice, cut once. Even if you feel like you know what's going on, there's no rush, right? You can go and check your wallet on one of the explorers and make sure everything's there, and just take your time as you're trying to recover something like that. Yeah. Either way, we have one more before we get out of here, Rob, and it comes from MHPD Law Dog, who asks, why does Microsoft AI Copilot know that Microsoft is on the governing council? And I think they're using the definition of know here a little bit loosely. But what do you have, Rob?
Yeah, so Microsoft is not on the governing council. I suspect Copilot is having one of these famous AI hallucinations. There's been a lot of speculation in the past about Microsoft coming onto the governing council, so maybe it's kind of drawn its data into its LLMs based on that. But yes, it is just a hallucination at the moment.
Well, we know that they're involved with a lot of things that are adjacent to things that are happening on Hedera. We certainly see a lot of places where Hedera could benefit Microsoft. So who knows? In the future, we might see it.
Yeah, but there was that original Guardian relationship as well, which kind of ultimately resulted in the Guardian, where the token taxonomy framework was co-designed and built. You know, the taxonomy framework, which is the standard token format that the Guardian tokens are based on, was drawn from a Microsoft relationship that Hedera had. So there are many touch points, but not on the GC yet.
There you go. All right, Rob, that's all we have for this week. I appreciate everybody sending their questions. Continue to drop them down below, and we'll try to get them answered for you. Rob, of course, your insights are always invaluable. That's all we have. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week. Bye.
I think the thing that stood out to me most there immediately was that Olympics shout out. I have no idea what's going on there, but having seen Rob before speak about smart cities, knowing that how connected he is with with FPOS and the banks out there and a lot of these sort of large scale institutions in Australia. I'm excited to hear more about that vision for, I think it's 2032, I think. So yeah, 2032. That sounds like a nice thing in the future to look forward to for sure.
Yeah, no question about that. And having a champion like Rob there in Australia, he's the one that actually can get it done. And he has 8 years to do it. And it would be great to see, Olympics 2032 built on Hedera. All right, we're going to shift gears here again. We're going to get into Hedera gaming. Since I've started the Built on Hedera series on my channel, I've wanted to highlight everything that's going on. And we've covered Earthlings a fair amount in the past, but I wanted to get a good baseline for them, explaining their overall vision. But they have some really good new stuff as well. So let's listen to Patrick. Patrick, welcome back. Thanks for stopping by.
Well, thanks for having me again. It's always fun to be on your show.
Well, I've fallen in love with what Earthlings is doing. Most of the people in the Hedera ecosystem know what Earthlings is and what you guys are up to, but we might have some new viewers here. So can you start with a clean slate and tell us about Earthlings and your broad vision?
Yeah, I can, of course. It all started, I'll try to do the short version. It all started like more than 2 years ago now, I think already. And what we saw, me and my brother, so I started writing and soon enough, I introduced my brother to this concept that I had as well. And he jumped right in, and Jorgo then as the third founder as well. But what we saw is a lack of many things in the space of gaming and metaverse in Web3. And transparency was something that I was missing a lot, but that was not the biggest thing. What I missed a lot in the metaverse and gaming industry in Web3 was a quality project with a Web 2 approach, because it felt like they were all building on hype, trying to get something done quickly, get a lot of money in quickly, and then, well, let's see what the quality will be of the project. And I thought that was a bit wrong. I saw projects launching with a black one-pager website only saying we are a metaverse. And just because they were launching on a certain chain that was very trending at that time, They were really reeling in hundreds of thousands of dollars on nothing but, hey, we're a metaverse building on this and this chain. So I thought something needed to change there. This project, I won't name any of these names, of course, but this project is now still struggling because they don't really have a concept. But that's exactly what I was missing. So something needed to change there. And my brother and I, we have been in the design industry for 20 years together. My brother a little bit longer as well, because I stepped out at a certain point, living now in France. But I missed working together with him. So that's why we started this again. As we said, we should do a game, metaverse, but now with the approach that we really want to compete with Web2 games. And of course, it starts with a concept and a great design. And I'm not saying that design is the most important of all in gaming, because, everyone, Roblox, take Roblox, not really well designed, but it's a mega success. But yeah, if you want to compete with these AAA role-playing games and other games in the genre that we are building as well, yeah, of course, the first impression you get is the design. And we are not pretending that we can set up something like Roblox. So we want to do everything right from the start. So first of all, it's design, and also then the gameplay, of course. I think what I started with, what I saw is that, and still see now, because there are many great games now being built on Web3, and some look impressive. But if you then start playing them, it's like slashing from A to Z, and that's it. There's no concept, no storyline, nothing actually. They look amazing, but then that's it. So what we set out to do is build something that we like to play as well. If I sometimes have to trash things. Builds have been working on things for like 1 or 2 weeks, and I have to trash it because it just doesn't look good. So sometimes you need to make these decisions because you want to get to the best result. And if so we're starting to build this gameplay now as well. And if I see at a certain point that I don't even like to play it, well, you have to start over. You have to be honest. If you are in the design industry, the best designers are the ones who are honest about their own work. So you take a step back, you look at it the next day, and if you don't like it, then be honest and start over again. So this is an approach that we need to take in Web3 as well, if you want to compete with the best out there. And of course, we are also leveraging, of course, Hedera for this, but that is, of course, something that is different than, of course, the gameplay. But the nice thing, and this is also something, by the way, Brendan, that I saw being misused. The nice thing is that you can really leverage the Web3 tools, and especially with Hedera, with the low fees, to add to the game experience. But you shouldn't be doing it the other way around. And that's what I saw a lot. So they were building on hype, saying things like, ownership with NFTs, awesome. But people then jumped in on the term ownership. But ownership is only cool if the game is cool. So this is something that, yes, needs to be leveraged as something that is an advantage, because it really is an advantage. If you, for instance, think of Fortnite, what if Fortnite tomorrow, or Overwatch, or one of these other cool games, if they tell you can own an apartment in our game, and you can really sell it on the open market, not like you have to sell your whole account, but really all these assets, it would blow people's minds. But why? Because it's a very good game. So it looks good. It's nice to play. So this is when you can really leverage ownership as an advantage and not just as a selling point. But the first thing needs to be the game. So that's where we're super focused on, and leveraging Hedera for all the tools that it has. It's just the best choice. For me, it's still mind-blowing that other chains like Solana, for instance, have so many games and some new ones as well. But if you take the Web2 approach, you go to a chain with low fees, that's super fast, predictable fees, by the way, as well, but because it's fixed. And the technology to build on, I told you many times over how Jorgo just loves it. And we've got a second builder in the team as well. He adapts to the programming that Hedera is using so easily. So that is a big advantage. So all these things together, first the game, but if you set it up from a Web2 perspective, you also look at a chain that fits that narrative. And that's not a hyped chain, but that's something like Hedera. So yeah, I wanted to touch, it was not your question, but I wanted to touch that as well. Consensus service, you probably can say a lot about that, but that is something that we will be implementing too. The banking system that we have also uses Web3. So there's a lot of things that we can use there. So sorry to make it so long, but
no, it's fine. I like listening to it. Yeah, I mean, what you're using Hedera for, you pretty much go across the entire space. Your NFTs, they're all of the in-game assets. So it could be tools, it could be transportation, it could be land, it could be an apartment, like you mentioned. You also have your in-game currency, which most games like this have some kind of in-game currency. It makes sense for that to be accessible on dexes and things like that, and be able to use that, across all kinds of different things. And then finally, you mentioned the consensus service, so you can use that for maintaining trust of your scores. So I think what you're doing is amazing. The other thing that I'm really impressed with what an Earthlings is doing is how you understand that community is paramount. So you go out and you make sure you stay engaged with spaces, with showing them what you're building by putting scenes out there of what the gameplay is going to look like. And the most recent thing that you've done is you want to give people mini games or sidekick games to be able to start to engage with the broader vision of what Earthlings is going to be. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, I will. I will touch on a little thing that you just said as well, because it is difficult, and I'll go back to the mini game, or as add-on games, as we like to call them as well. Because we do show our community what we are building, but building in Web3 is sometimes also difficult because they almost expect you to show something every week or every month. But some parts of the game are a bit bigger and need a little bit more time before you can show it. So that is something that is quite difficult, but it's still fun to do. We'll get back on that later. But yeah, the mobile game, we have Steam Runner now ready, actually still beta. We're going to announce it ready as soon as we have the claim page done, and that's being finalized at this moment. I've shown it actually to you already. It's just testing now. But yeah, we started Steam Runner as a community game. And it was fun to see when you posted something about that some people were thinking that we were shifting away from the main game and Steam Runner was now our main game. But that's not true at all. It's something that we do on the side. So that's not always easy. We have a big team now, but yeah, you do need to set people aside to finish that as well. So, but that is a game that people can now already engage in with us. As you said, yeah, we value our community and we don't expect them to sit still and wait for a long time for the main game to be finished. So this is why we're building these add-on games. The second one is almost finished as well. That will be a PC version. We try to diverse a bit. And we're also making a Telegram game. So there's some alpha for you there because not everyone knows that yet. And before we now really do an official announcement, because you beat us a little bit to it, because you were playing it and you showed me your daughters who were playing it. So, but of course, yeah, everyone can already download it. So everyone is free to show it. But we'll do an official announcement as soon as this Steam claim page is live. But also then with the next upload, all the avatars that we have will be ready to use. And we are trying to also now finish the integration with the wallet in a way that if you own, for instance, there's another bit of alpha. If you own some chickens, for instance, you already have the chicken pin in the game. It's very funny because then the chicken walks along with you. And if you hit a wolf, then the wolf gets the chicken and not you. You run nuts. Stuff like that. So it's going to be very fun.
Cool.
Yeah, but it was really actually a sidekick game, as most people like to call it. Yeah.
Very good. So I understand that, you've been working hard. You've built out a really big team considering you're pretty much all self-funded. What does the future hold for you and your team?
Well, we're still building out the main game, the main map as well. It's big and we want a lot of diversity there because I think one of the strong points of what we are creating is not only the gameplay that we will, of course, integrate. We are already integrating, but integrate more as we build. But also the design. There are some great games. For instance, if you Google or go to YouTube and Google Europa, the game, for instance, that's an amazing looking game. It was a big inspiration for me when I started. It was still in progress when I started this project, but I saw that as well. And I saw how many hits it got because it looked just amazing. And it didn't even say what it was about. And that's one of the reasons why I said if we start this, then we need to make it look so good as well, because you want an immersive gameplay. And that's also part of the whole metaverse experience. You see all these metaverses, but it's quite modern and slick. And it's not like if you are in that metaverse that you want to just walk around the corner. No, you've seen two streets and you know the style. We want to be more immersive than that. And for that, you need amazing design. So this is why this is such a high priority for me. So that is what we are still doing, building out the whole map, more and more biomes. And at this moment, we're finalizing the programming behind the user interface, inventory, stuff like that. Because with the next trailer that we're bringing out, and that's going to be a big one where we show all the biomes in a row. Well, we are actually working on more, but yeah, you can't make it too long. But also I want to add a little player perspective point of view in that game trailer. And what we're going to do with that trailer then is then we're going to go and make the marketing a big event. We're going to really promote that everywhere. Let's let's put some advertising on those Solana lovers and show them what Hedera has and what we are building, because I did see some comments from some Solana fans one time when we had some interviews, and they said, wow, I never saw something like this being built on Solana. So that's a big compliment, of course. So that's something that we are finalizing now as well. But it's so much what we're doing, because I eventually also want to integrate on a very special fun way, Battle Royale, for instance. Marcel and Joey are insisting on racing. Racing fans, so I need to integrate that as well. But the thing is, I can only do one thing at a time. So it's a big roadmap that we have, but the whole team is enthusiastic to build, and so a lot is to come. But for the coming time, we're finalizing all these add-on games. Going to start ramping up after the holiday season, the marketing campaign, and lots to come. It's too much to just say, and we can do a whole video about what is all in there.
It's exciting. The one thing that I say about Earthlings is your scenery is someplace that I would want to hang out in. It's someplace that I would actually want to go. So I think you're meeting your goals there. The Steam Runner game, I've been having an absolute blast with it. I know you're going to have that one right now. Everybody can go out and get that on Android or iOS. In the future, you're going to have that Telegram game you mentioned. You're also going to have a PC game. So you're keeping everybody engaged. I think that's absolutely invaluable. And if I'm right, you're shooting for the main game to come out in 2025, right?
Yeah, so if people think that I'm going to have the whole game finished, then a lot of people will drop off because they'll say he's an idiot. How can you make this game in the next year? No, but what we're doing, we're trying to open a lot of it, the whole, at least the exploring part, and some NFT integration and some quests, for instance, on the map, but not everything because it's too big for that.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, the community wants something in 2025. So we're aiming for that. We'll see how far we get. But yeah, that's the aim. And then we continue building, adding all these other gameplay things to it as well.
Well, Patrick, that's one of the things that I really enjoyed. It's the journey, going on that journey of building out this world with you, of, seeing what those different scenes look like, and then the NFTs and the objects that you're going to have in this space. And then you have the mini games. So you go a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole there, and you can start to interact with what this place is going to look like. And then eventually we're going to have portions of the main gaming metaverse, and then the whole world is going to be built out. So I'm having fun on this journey with you. Thank you so much for coming on today and telling us about it.
Thank you too.
So Zep, over the past few weeks, I've been singing the praises of Steam Runner. Now, I'm not an avid gamer, but have you had a chance to this point to try out Steam Runner, and what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm loving it. When I was younger, I was addicted to Temple Run, and this is obviously the Web3 steampunk Earthlings version of that, and more addictive, I think I might add. And I'm really enjoying all the themes that we've seen throughout the teaser trailers that Earthlings have been putting out over the years. Seeing that world in a casual game format, of course, ahead of the big game when that comes out. But I am very excited. I'm earning water at the moment, I think. But as I understand, they'll be integrating Steam rewards, which is their token. So it'll be much more of a sort of run to earn or play to earn dynamic. So that I'll be farming as well as playing, which I'm definitely looking forward to.
I have a huge apology to put out there. Now, they did launch the game. They put it on Android. They put it on iOS, but they weren't planning on telling everybody about it quite yet. And I started to see that it was out there, so I started playing it and shouting it from the rooftops, and they weren't even ready for it. But either way, it was just my excitement that kind of got ahead of me there. But they are going to be having those Web3 integrations here real soon. And like he said, they're going to integrate some of the assets that you have out there. The thing about the chickens was awesome. So I'm going to be buying some chickens here before too long, and I'm excited to see how all that works together in these first games on the journey for Earthlings. So the next thing we're going to get into, of course, we've talked an awful lot about WiseSat, about WiseKey, about CLSQ, and what they're doing with transactional Internet of Things. Well, they just announced that they raised $50 million in, I guess, a pre-sale of their token. So it was great to see that. Now, the stock of CLSQ has dropped a fair amount. Now, I knew when I got involved with that I was trying to catch a falling knife. Hopefully that turns around here before too long. But it's great to see them still moving forward towards their vision. So I'm going to kick this next one to you, Zep. Now, Tuum Technologies now has Metamask Snap integrations for the Hedera consensus service. Can you tell us a little about that?
So the Hedera Wallet Snap on MetaMask is now supporting the Hedera Consensus Service alongside the Hedera Smart Contract Service and the Hedera Token Service. So the three core pillars of the network services are now all compatible with the Hedera MetaMask Snap. I think by expanding this feature specifically, the HCS, it's a really cool opportunity for EVM developers, EVM users to interact with a service that's entirely unique to Hedera. The Hedera Consensus Service was one of the first services that really was Hedera. It was before the token service, it was before the smart contract service, and for a very good reason, right? It provides a lot of utility and a lot of function very efficiently, very fast, and very cost effectively, which other systems, other networks simply can't do. Really cool to see that integration, really cool to see all those three major services now as a part of that. And I hope this is, a good step for EVM developers, EVM users to make themselves comfortable on the Hedera network from within MetaMask.
Couldn't agree more, and well covered. And with that, we're going to get into some network analysis. So as far as transaction volume, we were cruising along at about 2,100 transactions per second. That dropped down to about 1,600 a couple days ago, and we just had to drop off a cliff. Now, these are fairly regular. We're taking a look now at the screen over the past 3 months. These drop down, and then we see it jump right back up, and the general trend has been upward over the past several months. We did see a max TPS of about 6,600, and we still had well over 1 billion transactions just over the past 7 days. Time to consensus finality is sitting at about 3.4 seconds, and we created a really impressive 90,000 accounts over the past week. Moving down to our fungible tokens, the top spot was taken by wrapped HBAR, and number 2 is actually an NFT that's being misrepresented for some reason. We also have Dovu, Karate, Siki, and Jam. Next up, we have Sauce, Native USDC, Energy Trade Token, and Confidence, which sounds like it's some kind of music metaverse. So I'm looking forward to learning more. If anybody has some more information on that, please contact us. Once again, the Malaysian student credentials we covered last week took the top NFT spot with over 146,000 transactions this past week. Next up, we have Doctor Who Worlds Apart, the Confidence NFT, the Saucer Swap Liquidity Provider Token, the 2024 Road Code Access Card, EMM, which is a Tune FM NFT, and spelled out, that's Every Minute Madness. Next up, we have the Karateka Gear Card, No Traffic in LA, the Not a Slime World NFT, and finally, the Silk Swap Liquidity Provider Token. So, Zep, last week I decided to start featuring NFTs each week. Last week we did Hella Sands NFT. This week I'd like to focus on the Hello Future Anthem by Josh and Brandon D, who we talk about all the time. Now, they launched that last year, but now the NFT is out. So if anybody wants to participate in that, you can go ahead to Turtle Moon and start with the initial mint, or they're starting to show up over on Centex as well. So show some support for our creators out there by going and minting one of those NFTs. And with that, we'll go ahead and get into some DeFi. The total value locked in the Hedera DeFi ecosystem continues to drop along with token prices and is currently sitting at just under $48 million. $44 million of that is on SaucerSwap, $2.4 million on HelloSwap, and I'm impressed to see HelloSwap holding firm at $1.4 million. Looking at the crypto and HBAR markets, Bitcoin is down 0.6% on the day and 2.5% on the week to just under $59 million. HBAR is down a bit more, 2% on the day and 8% on the week to 5.2 cents. It looks like we might have support around 5.1 cents, and if we can head back north, 5.8 to 6 cents might be critical. The fall can be bumpy, but these markets have the potential to rip at any time, and I'm certainly leaning towards accumulating with some of my dry powder in the hopes of a bull run in the year to come. All right, Zep, that's all we have. Is there anything else you'd like to pass on?
Yeah, I think we just saw, really cool developments on, all sort of parts of the ecosystem this week. We had Copper on the institutional side, we had ThriveCoin on the retail side, and then of course you've got the THA, sort of breakthrough initiative in Africa on the developer side. So 3 really great news items there, 3 really great advancements for the ecosystem, and I think a great week for those pieces especially.
Yeah, of course, we've seen a struggling a bit in the market, but I think that's going to turn around here before too long. I'd also like to highlight some things for next week. I'm going to try to get David back from Fresh Supply Co. because it sounds like they're going to start to impact the market in a big way here coming up. We're also going to get some team members that are focusing on using AI and Hedera for a space next week. Of course, we're going to get Rob back, so drop your questions down below if you have any questions about the HBAR economy and the Hedera ecosystem. The last thing that I want to highlight is try these things out. Go and use them. If you want to know about them, I have that built on Hedera series. You can go check that stuff out. But things like Steam Runner, things like HLiquidity, things like Hashpack and SaucerSwap, go and try these things out. If you haven't used them a lot lately, go ahead and get back into them because this is the way that we can innovate and keep moving forward as an ecosystem. All right, Zep, that's all we have. We'll see you next week.
Cheers, Brandon.